if something like integrity and virtue become as important as they should be to people and communities and countries and companies and whatever, what a change there would be. How impatient we should be with some of the things that have gone on recently. Just not to pick on a guy, but just to take an example at Merrill Lynch, which had a horrendously bad recent economic history. And their CEO walked off with $540 million in severance pay, leaving that magnificent company, and that's just no excuse for that. And the board of that company should have never permitted it. I'm not picking on Mr. O'Neill. I don't know him, and I have no right to say anything derogatory about him. But those are the facts of the case. That guy retired from a disaster with a take-home package of 540, I think it was maybe 530, but whatever. Tons and tons and tons of money.
Amazing.
And that's just so offensive that it sticks with you. On the other side of that, I may have told you guys this before, but when I got out of the service and went to work for IBM instead of going to school, and I worked at the headquarters in New York, 590 Madison. The old man was still there, T.J. Watson. And he had started with a small little picayune computer company. I may have the wrong name, but I think it was the Hollerith Company. And that was the nucleus that became IBM. Not directly, but over time. And this man, this is like the mid-40s now when I worked down there, was suddenly, because of his executive compensation package where he shared in the profit of the company has such phenomenal profit growth during that period of time and subsequent years as well, that if his formula had stayed in place, he would have made more money than would be acceptable under any guise, any system. And he knew that. So he went to his board, the old man did, and said, we're going to take some percentage of this compensation bonus package that I have here, and I want it to go back to the employees. So let's figure out what we're going to do with that and how we're going to give it back to them in a meaningful way, which they did. And they set up company resort areas around the country near plants, so that there would be facilities there for everybody to use, and for programs for their health and their education that were right available and at their fingertips. And he put his money into the corporate welfare program at IBM. And another example is when Jim Burke, he was J&J, Johnson & Johnson, when the Tylenol scare happened. Do you remember that? Some jerk put poison in some Tylenol, and there was
Chicago.
Huh?
In Chicago.
Yeah, well, that's right, it was Chicago. And, you know, people died, and it was a terrible, terrible, terrible thing. And he had a board of directors meeting, and he called NBC, CBS, or whoever, a couple of the big networks, and invited one or more of them in to his board meeting while they discussed this. And what they were gonna do about it, which was dramatic. I mean, they just threw the book out relative to cost, and they pulled billions of dollars worth of Tylenol off the shelves, threw it all away, and just started with a clean slate. I'm not explaining that part of it very well because the details aren't important. The fact was that he didn't try to cover this thing up or smooth it over or whatever. He hit it head on and made it right retroactively, and was very well known afterwards for that, as was Old Man Watson, T.J. Watson, well known for his generosity. They used to make fun of him at headquarters. Where I worked when I got out of the service, all employees were allowed to use this huge second floor area, which was a rest area for his employees, sofas and card tables and stuff like that. They come down there anytime after lunch and talk and play cards or whatever they wanted to do. And he would come down on occasion and have a song fest when they would be singing out of the IBM songbook.
The IBM songbook.
And one of the songs was, he had a vice president named Watson, and to the tune of Pack Up Your Troubles and your old kid bag. We were sitting in it was so weird to see a bunch of young guys and young women, or all ages actually, sitting down in this huge room of their own volition and singing this songs out of this little book. And I thought the one for Mr. Watson was, "Dear Mr. Watson, we adore thee." Oh, no, wait a minute. No, it's "Pack up your troubles, Mr. Watson's here." Cheer, cheer, cheer. Then there was another one.
That's enough about
Okay.
that.
Wow.
That is enough
But you
about
just started on something like that, and then you'd say,
Don.
"What am I doing?"
that. Enough.
You don't talk at 10% of the time you talk.
Sorry.
But what I'm saying is, those were two guys that lived out of a culture, corporate culture that you can respect.
Yeah.
And really, really significant.
That's a great story.
It is a good story.
There's a